Quorum call.
Without objection.
Mr. President, it's important for everybody to understand how things work today and what net neutrality is all about. What net neutrality is fundamentally about is everybody gets a fair shake with respect to using the internet. After you pay your internet access fee, you get to go where you want, when you want, and how you want. There are no special deals. There are no priority lanes for those with deep pockets who get more content and they get it faster than everybody else. It's not the way it works today. Everybody gets a fair shake on an open and free internet because of net neutrality. What Mr. Pai and his allies, and he's the head of the Federal Communications Commission, want is something very different. And under their vision of how things would work online, there would be toll booths all over the internet. And those higher costs would, in one way or another, come out of your pocket. And that would sure work a hardship on millions of Americans, on millions literally, but especially small businesses and seniors and students. But everybody would be affected by that new approach that would establish toll booths all over the internet. So my view is, Mr. President, there is no vote that this body is going to take in 2018 that will have a more direct impact on the wallets of Americans than the one that is going to happen in a few hours. This is the last chance to protect the free and open internet that comes about with real net neutrality. And the fact is, if we don't do it, the Trump Federal Communications Commission and Chairman Pai want to turn the lights out on that system I described today, where after you pay your internet access fee, you go where you want, when you want, how you want. That's what we have today. Without what we are doing here, Chairman Pai at the Federal Communications Commission can change that and take money away from typical Americans to line the pockets of their friends over at the big communications monopolies, at big cable. If Republicans in the Congress allow this administration to get away with repealing net neutrality, Americans can certainly be expected to be charged more for Netflix, for music services on Spotify, for video game downloads, for example, on PlayStation. So this isn't some academic policy question that's going to show up years from now. And certainly there are matters we talk about where that could be the case. This is where the Trump Federal Communications Commission could hand big cable companies more power and take more money out of the pockets of the American people next month. Mr. President, I'm very appreciative of my colleague, Ed Markey, for the extraordinary leadership role he has taken. He and I have enjoyed teaming up since the days when we began in public service. Senator Markey was then Congressman Markey, and he introduced the first net neutrality bill in the House, and I had the honor of partnering with him when I introduced the first net neutrality bill in the Senate. And both of us said literally more than a decade ago, we needed communications policies that were rooted in the principle of non-discrimination transparency, openness, and freedom for all online. And here we are, back in this fight once again, and passing the Markey resolution, which in effect ensures that what my colleague, the sponsor today, sought to do a decade ago, and I partnered with him on, actually gets done. Now, everybody understands that you have to pay a fee to get access to the net. The question at the heart of this debate that you have to keep coming back to is, once you pay that fee, shouldn't everybody get a fair shake? Shouldn't we be able to say in America, once you pay that fee, you ought to be able to go where you want, when you want, and how you want? Or should, as the Trump FCC wants to do, should you say that the big cable companies could hotwire the system, rig the internet for the benefit of those who can afford to pay more? And I would just say, because I've been listening to my friend talk about this, their vision is really something along the lines of an information aristocracy, where if you have deep pockets, you're going to have access to a technology treasure trove. But the typical American with their vision is kind of on their way to digital serfdom. And that's why it is so important to understand what Chairman Pai and the FCC are up to. Special deals for special interests. More power, significantly more power for those with deep pockets. What the people opposed to real net neutrality have cooked up is a scheme called paid prioritization. It's part of this, Senator Markey, I've called their effort to erect these toll booths online. And what it means is that if you're among the fortunate few, you get faster download speeds, more content, and if you're a big established company, guess what? You can stifle the competition. You can squash the competition. And those opportunities aren't going to be available to an entrepreneur who's in their garage somewhere just starting out. And for a family that's barely staying afloat, what it sounds like they're interested in is giving them second-rate internet service. And I think Senator Markey and I remember it wasn't that long ago when big chunks of America had dial-up, and people just seemed to wait forever to get online. Now, Mr. Pai is going to tell you with a straight face that the cable companies, these big cable companies, have the best of intentions, and that they're just sort of going to go along with all of this voluntarily because it's just the right thing to do. But my question is, if the cable companies are just going to go along with net neutrality, why is Mr. Pai working so hard to get rid of it? Doesn't really stand up. And I always say at home, because people ask what it means for us, and they've gotten to meet the charming William Peter Wyden, age 10, there is about as much chance that the cable companies are going to voluntarily go along with net neutrality, about as much chance as the likelihood that William Peter Wyden and his sister are going to voluntarily limit the number of their desserts. It just isn't going to happen. And in particular, if Mr. Pai says he believes in real net neutrality, the Markey resolution gives him a chance to actually show that. But we all know that he doesn't see it that way. Now, Mr. President, I just had open to all town hall meetings in Oregon, most of them in rural communities. And I'm telling you, I know the distinguished President of the Senate represents a lot of rural terrain. People in those rural areas understand what's at stake for rural America here. For rural America, without the Markey resolution, It means the net moves along at a snail's pace. It means rural businesses could have a harder time getting off the ground and reaching customers. I talked to ranchers, for example, about just this issue. It means rural health care could miss out on technological marvels that have the potential to save lives. This is particularly important because Senator Markey and I have teamed up on a lot of the efforts to improve American health care. We have led the fight to show that we're updating the Medicare guarantee so that it's not just going to be an acute care program, but it's going to focus on chronic illnesses. So Senator Markey and I have led the effort for more care at home, for greater access to telemedicine. Well, all of those technological marvels really depend on rapid access to the net. If you're in rural America and you've had a stroke, rapid access to the net may be something that saves lives, that ensures that those rural providers can get a connection to parts of the country that have, for example, a neurologist available who can help. So the Markey resolution and its passage should not be an issue seen on partisan lines. I don't see it as a political question. The bottom line on the debate is, if the resolution goes down, the stuff Americans do on the internet today is going to cost them a whole lot more tomorrow. And it isn't going to take place years from now and be some kind of abstract question. It's going to be on Americans, those extra costs that come out of their pocket. It's going to cost them a lot more in a hurry. So I close by thanking my colleague from Massachusetts for all his leadership. It's been my privilege to team up with him. I guess it becomes almost bicameral since the two of us started this in the House and the Senate. I urge my colleagues to support the Markey resolution. Do the right thing, colleagues. Support the consumer, small businesses. Let's not hand more power and profit to the big cable companies at the expense of Americans from sea to shining sea who cannot afford more money coming out of their wallets to go to the big cable companies. Mr. President, I see my friend on the floor, and yes, I'd be happy to yield.